Factually inaccurate. Morally correct. This is Babylon Bee Radio. Our top story. Matt Walsh is once again stirring up controversy after he shared pictures of Nazi death camps on his Twitter account with the words, "We must never let this kind of evil happen ever again." U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib is among the critics, calling Walsh's social media posts a clear incitement to violence against Nazi people.
This kind of irresponsible and inflammatory rhetoric from Matt Walsh could lead to real-world violence against Nazi loyalists who put Jews in concentration camps. It's important to remember that these camps were run by medical professionals and that no one was sent there until they turned 18. Jews have the right to live in concentration camps, which the Nazi PR reps told me they agreed to voluntarily. Matt Walsh is a hateful bigot who wants to incite terroristic violence against the proud German people.
Representatives from Twitter and Facebook released statements acknowledging the danger Matt Walsh poses to the public safety and mental health of mass-murdering anti-Semites and confirmed they're deliberating internally about how to address it. "We're troubled by what we've seen from this account," said Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal. "This kind of violent conservative rhetoric should have no place on a platform." Matt Walsh was finally suspended from Twitter for inciting violence against Al-Qaeda after sharing photos of 9/11. Critics of Governor Ron DeSantis are outraged at yet another death that has allegedly occurred thanks to his political exploits. U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tearfully recounted how the Florida governor yanked her from her Venezuelan home and human trafficked her to Martha's Vineyard, where she died. Following her martyrdom, Ocasio-Cortez expressed hopes that Taylor Swift would sing at her funeral. After DeSantis recklessly shuttled 0.0001% of the nation's illegal immigrants to a couple of posh liberal towns, Democratic lawmakers vowed to investigate whether any laws were broken. After finding no laws broken, the lawmakers then proposed a bill specifically aimed at preventing the use of immigrants as political pawns, appropriately named the Inflation Even More Reduction Act.
"This wasn't the first time I was human trafficked and killed against my will,"
said Ocasio-Cortez from the steps of the City Hall in Martha's Vineyard, while soldiers escorted other Venezuelan immigrants out of the sanctuary city.
"And so help me, if it means saving just one child from dying on one of Ron DeSantis' human trafficking airplanes, it won't be the last."
Following the somber funeral service, the body of Ocasio-Cortez will be returned to her homeland, where it will be fed to starving Venezuelans. As part of the ongoing celebrations for Latinx Heritage Month, millions of revelers gathered to remember that day just a few years ago when someone made up the word Latinx out of thin air.
"Our history as members of the Latinx community is long and rich,"
said Alejandro Diego Armando Manchego del Mundo, chairman of the Latinx Historic Foundation of Anaheim.
"Even the name Latinx has a deep heritage that reaches back all the way to 2019.
Some people have raised questions as to why Hispanic people can't go back to being identified by actual terms rather than a word that someone likely used by mistake but felt too embarrassed to correct themselves. Many segments of the general population are still unsure about using the word or even how to pronounce it, with some people thinking it's Marvel's new team of Hispanic X-Men and others thinking it's pronounced Latinx. Celebrations have been set to continue across the country despite any confusion regarding the name, including the Jill Biden Breakfast Taco Bash hosted by the First Lady at the White House. Prison reform advocates are celebrating the NYPD's unprecedented move to put dangerous criminals back out on the street as quickly as possible with the unveiling of a new giant slide. Police Commissioner Keishant Sewell.
"This slide, while also offering tremendous fun, will allow us to process criminals through our system and shoot them back out onto the street in no time. We've been searching for ways to keep the most dangerous people out in public as much as possible, and this will help us achieve that goal."
Public response to the slide is still flowing in, but not all citizens of the Big Apple are sold on it. "Yeah, I saw police officers standing at the bottom of the slide handing out weapons. One dude came down the slide, was given a hatchet and directions to the nearest McDonald's. I'm not sure this is a good idea." It's not yet known what type of effect the new giant slide would have on rising crime rates in the city, though some speculate that having more violent criminals roaming the city streets may in fact result in increased crime.
"I don't see the connection. Anyone who thinks having more criminals on the loose will lead to more crime is either ill-informed or racist."
At airtime, billionaire George Soros confirmed the slides were his idea and that he was funding the installation of additional slides in every major city in America. President Joe Biden sat down for an interview with Scott Pelley of 60 Minutes, prompting an all-nighter by the show's editor, who was forced to sift through hours of the president's racial epithets to produce a 25-minute segment for the long-running CBS show.
"Look, Jack, if you feel me,"
said Biden in one cut clip,
"if you ever need a jive, you come front me, okay, honky?"
Senior editor Randy Mooney admitted that he had to run a transcript of the interview through Urban Dictionary because he wasn't familiar with some of the more obscure racial slurs.
He kept referring to people by different colors, which was an easy catch, but then he also talked about how he really thought it was weird that African Americans were taller than average, but still 3/5 of a person? Honestly, if I wasn't sure what his point was, I just cut it because it was probably racist. According to sources, Biden's handlers had agreed to the interview so he could read prepared talking points on topics such as inflation, the coronavirus pandemic, and foreign policy. However, CBS's Scott Pelley reportedly asked unplanned questions like, "How are you doing?" which prompted racial responses. At airtime, senior editor Randy Mooney was promoted to executive producer for his excellent work on the broadcast. Is this the next pandemic? Health experts claim that a sudden illness is expected to cause many American employees to stay home, some for a week or more, on May 12, 2023.
Yes. All indicators suggest that millions of Americans will be calling into work sick with a mysterious illness on that exact day,
said Dr. Fred Hollister.
It's quite baffling, really. We haven't seen anything like this since the unexplained plague that halved the workforce on November 9, 2004. Or the sudden wave of, "I think I'm coming down with something, boss," that smashed businesses' productivity on March 9, 2008.
According to experts, these sudden spikes in workers calling in sick are totally unaccounted for, with researchers desperately trying to figure out the reason behind the wave of people calling into work all on the same seemingly arbitrary date.
It's like something out of a legend. But we're on a mission, a quest, if you will, to look across history and through time and to figure out what exactly the link between May 12th and everyone calling in sick to work is.
Dr. Hollister later confirmed that he too was feeling a little tickle in the throat and would probably be absent from work on May 12th. According to sources, wives across the nation have begun their yearly autumn ritual in which they carefully select pots of autumn-colored mums they wish to take home and immediately kill,
Fall is here!
said a spokeswife for the American Wives Union.
Soon, our front porches will be decked out with pots of red, yellow, and orange-colored mums we bought at the grocery store, which will just live 12 hours and immediately wither and die before our very eyes, forcing us to go back to the store to buy more again and again until Christmas! I just love fall.
Several thousand husbands groaned and rolled their eyes at the statement, but confirmed their hands were completely tied as their wives were, quote, just so stinking cute, said one local husband. Well, I've had to take out a second mortgage on the house to pay for all this. But look at my wife squealing and spinning in circles with all her fall decor. Oh, it's so adorable. It's almost criminal. I can't say no to that. Meanwhile, husband scientists are desperately working on technology that would make moms immortal so they can finally save some money. Now you're up to date on the only news that matters. Find more fake news you can trust at BabylonBee.com. Until next time, this is Austin Robertson, the voice of the Babylon Bee. So long.